My name is Hannah, and this is my Year of Less Stuff. Hey y'all, hi! So, this is the vision that I have had for my background, just shooting straight into the corner where my vanity now sits, and this is the first video I filmed with this setup, so I'm gonna give it a couple videos, see how I like it. I feel like something could go here on this wall, like I could hang something here if I end up sticking with it, or maybe I could put up like a stick-on wallpaper or something right here just to give it a little more texture. But I feel like this is going to be overall brighter, which is what I really want. I felt like I was really bright when I was shooting into the other side of the room, but the background was just so dark no matter what I did, no matter how I tried to light it. So I'm hoping that the lights of the vanity back there and the white in the corner back there will brighten up this shot. Let me know what you think. I am filming today a straight up favorites video, like a yearly favorites video, and I never thought I would do this. I was planning to kind of film a video about maybe like my favorite trends or my favorite things, or like the way in which I kind of usually do favorites, talking about things that were trending in my soul in 2019. But I was enjoying everyone's favorites videos so much. Like I've been watching all of them, just everyone's 2019 just pure straight up beauty favorites, like favorite products from the year. And I decided to write down my favorites just as an exercise for myself. Like I was still not even planning to film the video. I was just kind of curious. I was like, what would it be for me? And what I decided to do was to write down favorite makeup products that I've discovered in 2019. So these are things that I had never tried before 2019. And incidentally, it ended up that about half of them are things that came in PR, and the other half are things that I bought myself, which really interested me. That was one of the reasons I wanted to write this list down. It was actually like my main motivation for doing it, because I received way more products in PR in 2019 than I bought myself. And so this list, in terms of how many things made it onto this list that I bought myself versus how many things that made it onto this list that came in PR, it's very disproportionate. It's disproportionately in favor of things I bought myself if you look at the percentage of things that I bought versus the percentage of things I received. I hope that that's making sense. But I was tickled. I was delighted to find that essentially, when I bought something myself in 2019, it was much more likely to end up being an actual favorite. Like I know myself better, and buying something in a way, it's like a better bet for me than receiving it for free. So that was interesting. And then I was like, wow, interesting. And then I looked over the list and I was like, I don't think my subscribers know this list. Initially, I wasn't planning to make a favorites because I was like, I talk about the same stuff all the time. I show overhead shot videos of my collection. I have a pretty edited collection, and I am going to be, if you do follow me very, very closely and you have a very good memory, then maybe all of this will be old news to you. But there are some things on this list that I feel like I've mentioned a couple of products in this category, and I've never quite come right out and said, this one is my absolute favorite, this one wins the day of everything I tried in 2019. So then once I had the list, I was like, I think this would be good content. So I'm doing it. It's just a straight favorites video about the things that I discovered in 2019 that I felt like were the best products. And I don't have one in every category. I'm not forcing it. I just wanted to share the list with you. If anything, I feel like this list really motivates me to not be so ravenous about buying new things and accepting a bunch of new stuff in PR this year. Because there are a lot of things on this list that were my favorites in 2019 and remain my favorites of all time, like the GOATs. They're the greatest of all time. These are like, a lot of these are like the GOAT in the category that I'm talking about. And they're so much so that I feel like I don't feel like I need to look for another concealer. I don't feel like I need to try more concealers, because the one that I found in 2019, that's the GOAT, is good enough for me going forward. So in that way, it is a bit of an exercise in like snuggling myself down more firmly into the year of less stuff. It's like, I know what I like, I have what I like, I have what I need, and so I don't need to be so intense about going after more. And it follows that the category on here that I really like, that I care about, that I don't really have a favorite in, that's the thing that I've been buying in January. When we get there, I'll talk about it, but it all kind of does work together in my mind, and it helps me understand myself better, which is like what my channel is all about. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Regarding what came in PR and what I bought myself, I will try to mention it for each product, but at the very least, I will put an asterisk next to everything that came in PR in the description box down below. So if you're curious about whether or not I bought something myself and I fail to mention it, then you can check the description box for that information. So starting with primer, I discovered a primer this year that made me realize that I've never really loved a primer. I sort of always went back and forth between hydrating primers, color correcting primers, not mattifying. I never really liked mattifying, but I did spend some of my 20s really deeply invested in those like silicone pore filling primers. Like that to me was the primer. And I also enjoy glowy primers, like those were always kind of my favorites, but I never really found a glowy primer that I felt like didn't quite create a bit of like a metallic and textury sheen on my skin. There wasn't one that I just loved my skin every time I put it on. And then I tried the VDL Lumi Layer Primer. This was given to me. It wasn't sent in PR, but it was given to me at the VDL booth at BeautyCon, so I didn't buy it myself, but I absolutely will. The only thing that's keeping me from buying it myself is that I know that if I had another bottle of this, I would eschew all of my other primers and just use it because that's how much I love it. And I would like to at least make an effort at using up a lot of my other primers before I do that. And many of them are almost done, so I'm even more motivated. I'm gonna wait a couple months before I buy this again. But I absolutely would buy it myself, and it is definitely the GOAT. It is like the primer. And the thing that I love about it is that it's almost like a iridescent sheen that it gives to the skin, and it's very clear. It doesn't feel like it's putting like a metallic, like a highlighting metallic sheen in terms of being brightening or being luminous or light reflecting. I feel like luminous, light reflecting highlighters, they often have like light reflecting particles in them, not even necessarily glimmers, but shimmers, like not glitters, but shimmers, you know, just like the Becca one, you just see this sheen, kind of like a cream highlight, like a pretty sheer cream highlight. This to me is just gloss. It's like pure gloss. Because it has that slightly iridescent, light reflecting gloss quality, it blurs imperfections and evens out the tone of my skin, even though it's so shiny and so glossy, as opposed to what I always struggled with luminous and brightening primers, which is that I would feel like they would draw attention to the texture on my skin and then also be really shiny, but not in the way that, it was almost like I then had to go in and conceal the parts where there was too much shine. But with this, I feel like if I didn't have to deal with a bit of redness and unevenness, this would be like the perfect base product for me just all on its own, because the way it makes my skin look is incredible. And then it provides a really good sort of like smooth, grippy surface. I know that sounds like a contradiction in terms, but you guys know what I mean. Like stuff sticks to it nicely, but without it being like sticky. It's almost like it's beefy enough to show through. So even if I put like a little bit of full coverage concealer and blend it out into a sheer layer, which is what I tend to do, you can still see the quality of this product shining through that other base product. And that's something else that I really, really love in like a glossy or glimmery primer. So this is just my all-time favorite. I tried it and then I used it straight through without ever going to any of my other primers. And I have had primers that I've really, really liked, but I've never had one that just blew all of the other ones out of the water. So this was maybe one of my favorite discoveries of 2019. Okay, the color corrector that I want to talk about, I'm going in the order that I put things on my face, obviously, and I usually start with a primer after my skincare, after my sunscreen. I'll start with a primer, and then I almost always go in with a green color corrector. And I found my holy grail green color corrector this year, and I used it up and I haven't purchased it again. It was the Sephora Bright Future Serum Green Color Corrector. It's in a tube, looks kind of like a concealer. I used it up, and then I had one that I had been given from Yes Style, the Para Ink Green Color Corrector, that I didn't really love. It was very scented. I was worried that it was contributing to what I think I've learned. One of you sent me a DM, and you're definitely right, that it's perioral dermatitis maybe that I've been dealing with. It keeps popping up down here. I felt like that product was contributing to that. And so I ended up giving it away. I gave it to a friend who was visiting at the beginning of the month. That same friend, who knows a lot about makeup, recommended a different serum drops color corrector for me that I actually did buy and that I'm testing out. And I I think I'm going to keep it and keep using it, but I've determined, and I'll talk about this at the end of the month when I talk about what I bought with my budget, because I spent my budget on it. Actually, I guess it was technically a replacement because I didn't have a green color corrector. So I might count it as a replacement. Things are a little bit more fluid this year, and my budget is a little bit all over the place this month. I'll talk about that at the end of the month, but I guess it was technically a replacement product. So I replaced my green color corrector with this other one that I've been trying. It's nice and it's much more high-end than the one from Sephora, but I think I've determined that I actually even still like the Sephora one better. The Sephora one isn't as good value for money because even though it's only $14 when you buy it, it's a very, very small tube. So I think the one that I have now, it's the one from Algenist. I don't know why I need to keep it a secret. I'll talk about at the end of the month. It's the Algenist color correcting drops. It costs more than twice as much as the Sephora one, but there's like 4 or 5 times as much product in it, and a smaller amount goes a longer way. Less goes a longer way. So I know it's going to last like 5 or 6 times longer than the Sephora one lasted me because I went through that tube pretty quickly. But in terms of the quality of the product inside, the Sephora Bright Future color corrector it's the GOAT because it's so skin-like. The finish is so skin-like, dewy. It's got sort of a dewy finish. And yet it does a really good job of concealing redness, and that is the life that I am all about. So it was an amazing discovery, and I might give in. I don't know how long this Algenist one is going to last, but I might give in and buy the Sephora one to supplement it. Another thing that I might do is return it, the Algenist one. I might decide that it's just a little bit too chalky for me and I might switch it out. But again, we'll talk about that at the end of the month. That's not what this video is about. Green color corrector, best of all time, Sephora Bright Future. So the foundation that I discovered this year that to me was the best I have ever tried, I also don't have with me because it was a sample. It was a little teeny sample of the Bobbi Brown foundation stick. It's like a hydrating foundation stick. It is the most skin-like. So I got this sample, I think with a Sephora order, and I used it up. It was really good coverage for me. I don't think it's super full coverage, but I don't really like full coverage, but it did cover my skin really better than most of the foundations that I use and most of the techniques that I use when I'm covering all of my skin up for the photo shoot that we do once a week. I was using it for that and it performed beautifully. It looked so much like skin. It was that magical balance where it would melt into my skin and become one with my skin, and it just seemed like there wasn't anything on my skin except for maybe a little bit of dewy cream. And yet all of the discoloration, any unevenness was completely obscured. That was magical. And I was determined to buy it again. I was even thinking that I would have our business buy it because it was essentially going to be a tool for the photo shoots. But then I received a couple from friends, a couple of foundations and in PR, and it's just those foundation products where I'm like really obscuring all of the texture on my face and all of the unevenness, like totally covering it up. Those are products that I don't really feel like I need. I only have them because it's a photo shoot. So it just seems silly to spend money when I have some that work perfectly fine that I got for free. So I didn't end up actually going back and buying that, but it remains the best base product that I've ever tried. The only issue with it was that it was a tiny bit pink. The lightest shade was light enough for me, but it was a tiny bit cool tone for me, and it made my face look a little bit piggy, like a little bit pink compared to my neck and the rest of my body. So whenever I used it, I had to mix it with a very yellow toned concealer. Luckily, my concealer is very yellow toned and it always worked. Or I would mix it with the green. That was what I was mostly doing. Mix it with the green color corrector. But it always worked perfectly well. Just a drop or two of the green color corrector and then that product. I don't love that life. Like I don't love it that I don't love the thought of buying a foundation product, spending all that money buying it and knowing that it's not a perfect match for me. I really don't like that. That's very much against my nature. But I might do it someday because I just loved the finish. My skin loved it so much. It felt nourishing. And I ended up actually using it when I wasn't even shooting for the photo shoots. I would like use it kind of as a concealer. I just loved the quality of that product. So that was the Bobbi Brown foundation stick. I'm not sure what the official title of it is, but I'll put it in the description box. And then the concealer that I was just talking about is one that I bought myself. It is the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Light Capturing Concealer, Self-Setting Concealer. I purchased this concealer after a very, very long search at the beginning of 2019. I was looking for the most skin-like concealer. I was looking for one that was truly undetectable on the skin and that had a range that went light enough for me. Those are my two criteria. I found it in this concealer, especially when it's mixed a little bit with something, anything like a green color corrector, or sometimes I mix it with the Hourglass Veil, which I did use it almost all the way up. It's going to be in my empty soon, but I didn't really love that product. But if I mixed that a little bit with this, or even like a little bit of a highlighting product, the coverage is really good. Like it is, I think, considered a full coverage concealer. I only ever use the tiniest drop and I always sheer it out. So I don't get that, like, although when I do the photo shoots, sometimes I really cake it on. And yeah, it's got very, very full coverage. But especially the way I use it, which is either mixed or sheared, it's so undetectable. It really does not, it doesn't go into the pores, and it really looks like skin, but it gives me that brightening, and it gives me that sort of veil of like a whiter and more yellow color, which is what I need to balance out like the darkness and redness on my face compared to my neck. Radically, this is the second to lightest color. This is so unusual for me because I know it's, especially wearing this white shirt and with like all these lights and this white background, it's hard to tell how pale I am. I'm incredibly pale. There is almost no foundation range, especially up until recently. Up until recently, when shade ranges increased over this past year, I have been like really a beneficiary of that, because when I started looking into makeup, even, I mean, quite early when I started wearing makeup at all, but then when I started getting really into makeup, like in 2016, I was boxed out of almost every foundation in Sephora, almost every one. And so to find a concealer where the lightest shade was just too light for me, like it really made me look made up. So this is the second one, which is called, it doesn't have the shade name on the bottom of here, but it's shade 11. I believe it's called Pearl. Even it's like my brightest and lightest concealer. And even it, if I use too much of it, I will look quite made up. I could go with like a bare face, like no foundation, just primer. And if I put too much of this under my eyes, I will look like I have on a full face of makeup, because just the contrast between like my skin and my skin under my eyes would be so bright. So I wonder sometimes even if I should have gone yet another shade darker with this. And when I repurchase it, I might mess around with that idea. For now, I like having the tool of like a quite brightening concealer. But the thing that's really amazing to me about this is its skin-like finish, and for that reason, for me, this is the GOAT. This is the greatest concealer of all time. I have a runner-up in this category, or rather two runners-up, and these did come in PR. These are the YSL Touche Éclat products. So there's the YSL Touche Éclat High Cover. That was a new release this year. And the lightest shade, it's not quite as white as the Makeup Forever in shade 11. It's a little bit yellower and just a little bit less bright. And then the regular Touche Éclat, they added a lightest shade. It was always way too dark for me. They added like yet a lighter shade. I think it's called Milk or something, and I think it's shade 0, maybe shade like 0.01 or something. It's like lighter than the lightest one. And it is also light enough for me, but it's a little bit peachier. So it's kind of more of like a brightener color corrector, and it's very sheer. I really like these products, and I do end up using them a lot. I end up reaching for them a lot. They're a bit more natural to me than this, partly because of the color and also because of the finish. I also find them very skin-like. So this to me is like the greatest tool of all time for concealer purposes. And then these are just like really good. Like I wouldn't say no to them again for free. Not totally sure that I would buy them. And it might be that if I had to only have one concealer ever, it might be that I would go for the YSL Touche Éclat High Cover, because it's so well balanced. But I think that the one that really shocked me, really like I fell in love with this year, is the one from Makeup Forever. And then my spot concealer, the one from NARS, I didn't discover that last year, but that's still my favorite one. In the category of eye primer, I don't have a favorite. I didn't try any new eye primers this year that usurped the ones that I had been using and depending on. In the eyeshadow realm, I think it's pretty obvious. The Rowan Quad, this is something I bought myself with my own money. I bought the one in 75 Degrees Warm. I feel like I've used half of it. Like, I don't know if you can see how intense the dips are in these pans from there, but this product just, it really wiggled its way into my heart. I love the quality of the finish of these, how easy they are to use, how glamorous and yet casual they look. It's like my entire aesthetic all wrapped into one. And also, I used to just abhor creasing on the eyes because I have quite hooded eyes, and I just tend to have like one crease line, so it's not that cute, like multi-wrinkled, like rock star greasy look. I just get this one line where things gather in the crease. But this product, even though they don't set down completely and I will get some creasing after a couple of hours, it kind of taught me to embrace it and to love it. And I think it also might be that the way that these crease, they don't look bad. They don't look bad. Like some eyeshadows, especially powder eyeshadows, if they don't adhere well and then they start creasing, they pick up, like they crease and they become patchy. It picks up from the rest of my lid and you see this like dark line and you can almost see like gunk in there, and then the other parts of my lid are bare. This doesn't do that. It just gathers a little bit, then the rest of the lid still look just as sheeny and beautiful and perfect. And it's so easy to just tap it out. It's like you don't even have to have a mirror. And I think that process of it kind of like melting and being lived in and being like even gleamier, because I feel like the oils of the eyes contribute to the gleaminess and it's like it's all one. I like it so much, and I even almost like the creasing. I just like everything about it. So I really like that this product evolved when I'm comfortable with. Like it actively forced me to evolve. This was definitely at the top of my list, but I feel like it's tied with the Clionadh shadows. The Clionadh Stained Glass collection, they sent me 14 of the shades, so about half of them are in here, and the rest are in this little palette of singles that I've been using. I just pulled them out and put them in there. In terms of like extraordinary, gleamy, multi-dimensional powder eyeshadows, nothing tops that Clionadh Stained Glass collection. So those are absolutely the greatest of all time for me and will continue to be. Some of them, the ones that are really, really similar to the JD Glow ones, I feel equally as fond. I think the JD Glow, those were my favorite. The JD Glow Galaxy collection, those were my favorite eyeshadows of all time, truly, before I found these. The thing about the Clionadh Stained Glass collection is they've got such a range, such an intense color range. Like it's so many different variations on the theme, and then they have that texture range. So they definitely have done things that the JD Glow collection doesn't do, and I think that that's why that collection edged out the JD Glow ones for me, although I am still really fond of those JD Glow Galaxy shadows, the ones that I have, that I bought. I still love them, I still use them, and I still reach for them, of course, from time to time. I don't only ever reach for the Clionadh ones. They just, if I could only keep one collection of single shadows, it would be the ones that Clionadh sent me. It would be the Stained Glass collection. Okay, let's talk about mascara. So for a long time, there is like a runner-up in this category too. It's the LA Girl Volumatic that I received. What was it? It was at BeautyCon as well, at the LA Girl booth or the Ulta booth or something. It was in just like a little bag that I got there. That was a great mascara, but it did have that stiff rubber bristle wand, and so I could get those curled up corners, and there was a lot of volume. I would totally buy that again, especially if I was in a pinch. But then when I moved on to trying this one, Milani Highly Rated, this is my current open mascara, it topped even that one because it gives fluffiness. And I love that fluffiness and volume. It's got a full, much fuller, more fluffy brush, and so I get that fullness and that fluffiness, but it also has a lot of like lengthening and blackness and depth. It's just a great mascara. I feel like this does everything that people talk about Voluminous Lash Paradise from L'Oreal doing. I feel like this does everything that does, but to me, way better. This performs like a high-end mascara to me. Like it feels to me like Dior Show. Yeah, that's actually what it feels like. It feels like a dupe for Dior Show. I would totally buy this again if I ran out of mascara. It might actually be the top of my list for ones I would try again, but I still really want to try Essence Lash Princess. That's something I'm hoping to do in 2020. Eyeliner, this really surprised me when I sat myself down and I really made myself be honest with myself, confess to myself about the eyeliner that I love the most from the year. It's this one that Urban Decay sent me. It's the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On Eye Pencil. And I know that this is stale tea. I mean, like everyone's been enjoying these eyeliners for years and years and years. And I think I had even had it before. Like someone had given it to me as a gift before and I'd used it up and I'd really liked it. But then I've just been using all the other eyeliners that I have, and some of them are getting a little dried out because they're old, and some of them just aren't as creamy. And the runner-up in this category is another one I've really been liking, which is the one from Persona, the brown one. And I do reach for that more than I reach for this because I tend to use a brown eyeliner most days, and I also use it to put my mole back on. But I realized that recently I've been like disappointed, especially when I'm doing a dramatic eye look. I've been disappointed when I decide against black eyeliner because the creaminess and blendability of this is so pleasurable. It's so fun to work with, and it's just so sturdy. It's so well performing. To be totally honest, I wish I had it in other colors. I wish I had it in brown, and if I did, I would be using it more than any of my other ones. That's interesting. I tend to just like use whichever eyeliners are lying around. I tend not to be that picky. But this one, which is in the color Perversion, this I really fell for in 2019. So for my brows, soap brows are still reigning supreme when I use my brow dye. And if you're interested in how I dye my brows at home, then I direct you to the video that I made about that a couple of years ago. I think it was during my Note by Year, or at least it was at the beginning of last year when I was still living in my other place. I filmed a tutorial, like a demonstration of how I dye my brows at home. So if you just search for that in my channel search bar, it'll come up, and I'll try to remember to link it down below. My brows are at their best when I've recently dyed them, and then I use soap in them, which is what I've done today. But as the dye fades, I don't always feel like I have the time or the wherewithal to re-dye them. And so I often end up leaning on like fill-in products, like actually products to fill in and darken my brows, to fill in the gap between when I dye my brows and they start to fade and when I dye them again. So I've used brow pencils in that capacity on and off, but the product that I tried this year that really, really shot to the top of my list was one that Lauren actually gave to me. So this wasn't PR. She got it in PR. It's the CoverGirl Easy Breezy Brow. And she gave me it's like the light brown one, medium. 110 medium. So it's not the darkest and it's not the lightest. I think there are only 3 colors. And then there might be a clear one as well. The hold is fantastic. And I have wiry, stubborn brows. The hold is fantastic. And as long as I don't brush it onto my skin, but just keep it brushed into my brows themselves, it does an amazing job of darkening them and defining them. This is a beautiful product, and I have completely used it up. This is about to go into my empties. I've really used it up. And side note, Benefit sent me their product that's this style pretty recently in like a box of brow products. I think it's called Gimme Brow. That's what it is. Benefit Gimme Brow. It's the exact same thing. The CoverGirl one to me is 100 times better. I don't get the same hold and control with Gimme Brow as I do with this one. This is a fantastic drugstore dupe for Gimme Brow and for Boy Brow, in my opinion. I've used Boy Brow before, the Glossier version of this, and there's not enough hold in that for me. It's too soft and waxy, and my brows just fall over the course of the day. I actually have had occasion to try a number of brow products in this style, and CoverGirl Easy Breezy Brow it's the only one I actually like enough to buy myself. All right, moving on to the category with which I am the most obsessed right now, blush. I had the amazing opportunity to discover like basically a holy grail powder blush this year because it was sent to me in PR. I think through Octoly. I think it came through Octoly. This is the Blush Subtil from Lancome, and it's in the color Miel Glacé. It is the perfect sort of flushed, sunburnt, and not too colorful blush. So it's not pink. It's like a brownie, honey sort of thing, but it's got enough of that ruddy undertone that it really does make me look like I've gotten some sun. And then it also has a bit of a glossiness to it that keeps it from looking too powdery on my face. I love this blush. And there is a runner-up in this exact blush line, which is the one called Mocha Havana Shimmer. It's a bit darker, and I can't put on too much of a layer of it because it will just look like gray. It will look like a stripe on me. Like I think it's meant for deeper skin tones. But if I want that really contoured, sort of sculpted, like haute blush look, I can go in with Mocha Havana Shimmer, almost like a blushy contour behind this one, and blend them together. I often do that. I often wear them together. And especially for a photo shoot or for being on camera, the two of those together, they are just stunning. The finish is so beautiful. This is the best one for me to wear in real life. I think the reason I kept Mocha Havana Shimmer when I was doing the declutter was that it's so good on camera. But if I wasn't like modeling for my clothing business, and if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I probably would just have Miel Glacé and it would be enough for me. It is my favorite powder blush of all time. It's so good. However, as you will know if you've been watching my videos for the first part of this year, I am only interested in cream blush right now. And curiously, I don't feel like I have a favorite cream blush from the year. The two that I have worn the most, that I've enjoyed the most, I have here, and those are ColourPop Roosevelt, the blush sticks, and the Lila B Lip and Cheek Tint in Be Lovely. These are both very beautiful, kind of brownie toned blushes. That's what I like. The ColourPop one leans a little bit more orange, and then the Lila B one leans just a little bit more like a berry brown. Not even berry, but like maybe a little bit more like a rose brown. I feel like that's what it is. But neither one of these is what I want. I want a big pot that I can dip my brush in. I want it to be super creamy. I want it to be a little bit glossy, and I want it to be more brown, not as orange as Roosevelt. Roosevelt is the brownest one that ColourPop has, and it's still too orange for me. And I also want it to be not as rose as Be Lovely. I want it to be browner. So this is the category that I've been buying stuff in the first part of this month up until now. I bought a couple of things in this category because I have been feeling like it's something that I'm really interested in. And now that I made this list and I'm doing this video, I understand my choice to spend some of my beauty budget on some cream blushes right now, because it does feel like this kind of investment in discovery. And I wouldn't do that with powder blush. I wouldn't do that with eyeshadow right now. I wouldn't do that with primer. I wouldn't do that with concealer or mascara. It's like I just don't feel like I need to, because I have all of these favorites. But in cream blush for last year, there is no favorite. Powder highlight, no favorite. I'm a little bit put out with powder highlight right now in general. I'm actually not even that into powder highlight. I decluttered a lot of my powder highlights, and I don't know, I almost never reach for them. Sometimes when I'm doing a photo shoot or if I'm filming, I'll reach for a powder highlight just for the tips of my cheekbones to really make it pop, especially on top of a cream. Sometimes I will do that. I mean, I tried some that I liked last year, but none of them could be called a favorite. However, in the kind of creamy pot highlight department, I have some favorites. So I think that the absolute winner is the New Drop Lumi Cheek from Holika Holika. This came from Yes Style as part of the videos. Like it wasn't like a collab, but they like sent me some products and I made some videos reviewing them. Look at that pan, that silver dot in the middle. That's pan. Like I've used, volume-wise, I've used at least half of this, and I'm well on my way to using up the entire thing. I'm absolutely going to pan this in 2020 because I use it constantly. It doesn't completely set down, but because it has this almost like a sheen of oil, but it's like a set oil, my hair doesn't stick to it. The glossy finish is just to the moon. It's so, so, so good, and it can be mixed with cream blushes because it looks a little bit dark in the pan, but it's very sheer. It's got a bit of a bronzy, I love the color, but it's very, very sheer. And I can wear it on my own, and I do, but I also frequently will mix it with cream blushes that have more of a matte finish than what I want. This is the runner-up. It's from the brand called Lacqua & Co., which I've never really heard of. Look at the pan in that too. This is at least 2/3 of the way, if not 3/4 of the way done. It's just like a little bit in the corners right there. This is from Lacqua & Co. It's called the Be Lighter Blush Highlighter, and they have two. There's a pinker one and a peachier one. This looks very pink to me, but it's the peachier one. I really wish they would make a brown one. It's so sheer that I can still make it work, and once again, it's that gloss effect, like gloss all across. These are my two gloss all across products, and they're like my hero products right now for the face. This is not the full size, by the way, of the Lacqua & Co. one. It's a little sample, and it was a gift from a friend, so it wasn't PR, and it wasn't even a gift from a friend who gets PR. It was like she had it and she gave it to me. Okay, lipstick. This was very interesting because I knew right away. I didn't even have to think about it. There are 3 things in this category. I think probably the top, the cream of the cream, is Maybelline Raw Chocolate. This is absolutely my favorite lipstick discovery of 2019. I love this lipstick so much, and I also have been using it on my cheeks a lot. It's just, the color is just amazing. It's just amazing, amazing, amazing. I absolutely love Maybelline Raw Chocolate. And then the 2 runners up are Maybelline Gun Greige, which I love just as much. I just don't wear it quite as much because it's a little bit less natural. And then the Bobbi Brown Bare, the Bobbi Brown Crushed Lip Color in Bare. It's another one that's just like so natural. It's got like a slightly skin-like matte-ish finish. Feels like chapstick, looks amazing, looks very sort of flushed and yummy on the skin. I bought all 3 of these too. That is really telling to me. My 3 lipsticks that I love the most are all ones that I picked and bought myself. And then lip gloss. This is a really interesting category as well. I have talked about how much I have enjoyed the Revlon Super Lustrous, the gloss, but I don't know if I've made it clear that it's truly my favorite. Like of all, and glosses were rampant this year. Like gloss was raging. It was like a tide of lip gloss. And in that tide, I got to try a lot. I got a lot of them in PR. I bought a couple of them. The Super Lustrous, the gloss from Revlon, and I love this color Blissed Out. It looks kind of like NARS Orgasm-y in the tube, but it ends up looking really natural. It doesn't look this pink, like it's so pink with gold shimmer, but it ends up looking really natural and just like plump and luscious and lovely on the lips. Here's why I like it. It's because it's so thin. It's so thin and slippy, and it looks so dewy. It really looks, visually, to me, it is a dupe for the Fenty gloss. It just gives that like juicy look, and I can overline a little bit with it, and it really makes my lips look bigger than they are, and it just makes them look so slick and glossy and juicy and big. But the Fenty gloss, when I do that, it is actually kind of thick on there, and the thickness means that it'll like fall down and wear away. But this, it's so thin. It's like the thinnest coating of sort of like an oil slick of product, and it isn't sticky at all. It really has, again, it's almost like a bit of oil rises to the surface and seals over it and makes it not stick to anything, and your lips don't stick to each other, and it doesn't string at all or stick to itself at all. It's the formula is just, to me, quite special. The runner-up is the In Beauty Lip Oil Glaze #1. It smells like Cherry Jolly Ranchers. I've used more than half the tube, even though this was a party favorite, Simbree's Party, which was at the beginning of December. So, and I haven't really been using it in 2020. It was just all of the rest of December, and then I took it home for the holidays with me, and I used it a bunch while I was there. It gives you that really sort of lollipop, youthful, like sultry, glazed, reddish look on the lips. And it has a huge doe foot that's very pleasurable to apply. I don't mind applying this over and over and over again during the day, which you do have to do. In some ways, the quality, like the things about this that appeal, do remind me of what appeals about the Fenty gloss. So if you really love the Fenty gloss, this is like that, but it's totally glassy and sheer. It doesn't have any shimmer in it. It just has shine. If you like the Fenty gloss and the idea of that appeals to you, then you would really like this as well, because it's offering like a lot of the same things. It's just in a slightly different finish, slightly different formulation. And yeah, I've really enjoyed having and using this. I love everything about it, but I can't say that I love it as much. I love it in this like indulgent, childish way, but it definitely didn't impress me as much as the Revlon, the Lustrous True Gloss thing. And lastly, setting spray. I don't tend to be someone who like compares and contrasts setting spray or falls in love with setting spray. I also don't always use setting spray. It's sort of just an occasional fun thing for me. And so I had never come across a setting spray where I was like, I love this. I love everything about it. I love this more than any other setting spray I've ever tried. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then I tried the Lila B Aglow face mist, and that is how I felt about it. I love this product. This isn't actually it. I love the sprayer so much that when I used this up and it was in my empties, I poured like a hair mist in it the sprayer on the actual one, it's like a beachy hair mist, and the sprayer got clogged. So I needed like a really good spray bottle to spray that hair mist. So that's what this is right now. I'm keeping it on my vanity, but it's not the face mist inside of it. It's nice that I still have the bottle to show you because, gosh, it's amazing. It's expensive is the thing. It's expensive. I feel really grateful that I got it in PR because face mist isn't a category that I usually invest in like that, and so I would never have tried it. But since I did get the chance to try it, I can confidently say that it's the only face mist that I've ever loved. The other ones that I have are fine. Like the one from Pixie I'm using up. I have an all-nighter that Urban Decay sent me. I have this one from LA Girl with shimmer. Those are fine. Like I don't feel like I need to get rid of those and replace them with this. But I don't love them the way that I loved the Lila B Aglow face mist. And that is it. That is my bona fide, run-of-the-mill, straight-up favorites. Or I guess for me it was like favorite makeup that I discovered in 2019 and things that I guess you could say that they've endured as my favorites. So these are all things that are my favorites right now. I hope that this was interesting for you. I hope that if you follow me closely that it wasn't too repetitive and too boring. In some ways I worry that being like, this is so amazing, that's so amazing, it can sort of fuel the consumerist fire. I hope that it's clear that for me it's kind of a matter of being happy with the things that are your favorites so far. And if you're struggling with it, actually, if you've watched this video and it's making you like want to buy all this stuff, I highly recommend my video, There's No Such Thing as a Holy Grail. because I've kind of been talking about that in this video. I've been like, this is my holy grail blush, and if you don't have a holy grail blush, or you suspect that this one might be better than your holy grail blush, it could be causing you to want to try it and want to buy it. And if that's not right for you right now, if you're on a no buy or low buy, or you're on a budget and it would be outside your budget, or it's just not how you want to be spending your money, then maybe go watch that video, There's No Such Thing as a Holy Grail, just to remind you that it's all relative. It's not gonna like change your life. Like someone left the most amazing comment the other day that was in line with something I've said before. She was like, I got the Natasha Denona Star palette for Christmas, and you were right. It didn't change my face. She's like, it turned out that it's just a beautiful eyeshadow palette. It didn't give me different eyes. It didn't give me a different face. I still have my same face. And then she was like, crying emoji, crying emoji, crying emoji, which is very funny. I mean, it was like tongue in cheek, and I get it, but she was just expressing an experience that I've had from time and time again, that I've talked about time and time again on my channel, which is that when they're being discussed on YouTube, when they're being talked about in the abstract, these products seem like magic. Like you feel like if you could only get your hands on the Lila B A Glow Setting Mist, your life would change, your personality would change, the way you look would literally change. But that's not true. All that will happen if you get your hands on it, if you spend like $48 or whatever it is that you'll have a setting mist that you really enjoy using. That might not be worth it. So just make sure that you are actually being realistic about what these products are, what they would mean to you, and what they would be worth to you if this video has tempted you in any way. That's it. I hope that helped. I hope that this was fun. I really enjoyed filming it. I'm enjoying my new background, and I hope that you are remembering to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.